use this framework, you're going to get every woman who is available. And I don't mean emotionally available, I just mean she's not in a relationship, right? So approaching women at bars can be so easy and it leads to a lot of great dates. Here is exactly how to do it. So I came up with this, which is an approach script. So I have approached probably tens of thousands of women at this point, strictly at bars. And over a lot of trial and error, over a lot of, using different things. I've never really used pickup lines, but used a lot of different shit. The best thing that I have ever done is literally one day just be like, I'm just gonna say the bare minimum. I'm literally just gonna walk up to her and be like, what's good? What's up? Right? And it always fucking works because you have to realize that when you're at a bar, when you're at a club, women, from the moment they got ready to go out, have already thought to themselves, I'm gonna get approached by men tonight. So the only way you can have leverage in the conversation when you make the approach, when you're the one initiating the approach, right? Because everyone knows that everybody gets an ego boost when they get approached by somebody. So the only way you can have the leverage in the conversation is if you don't do the most. If you walk up to her and you're saying some pickup line which she knows is rehearsed, or you're doing the most where you're like, oh, can I buy you a drink? Like super high energy, what she's automatically gonna do is know that you're not a high value man. So you simply are going to walk up to him and be like, what's up? You simply walk up to her and be like, what's good? And you pause after you say this because you want to make her see you, right? Every time when I walk up to him, I go like, what's up? And I pause. And I'll show you guys even a video that I have. This was an approach that I did. I think this is when I was in LA, right? So a lot of people were telling me to review this and like show them how I did it. So I actually saved the video, and if you watch it, you'll see something, right? It's me flashing a smile to the camera. So that was me making the approach right here, right? I did the nod. She said something to me, and obviously the camera can't see it, but at that point, it gets into what I'm about to get into here, which is you ask her a question about herself, and then you ask her who she's with, right? So right here, there's no sound on it, but I'm pretty sure I asked her, who are you with? And that's when she pointed to her friend, and I brought her friend into the conversation. All right? So when I'm talking to the friend here, what this actually does is the one that I actually want, who was the one that was in front of me, it actually disarms her because she starts thinking like, okay, her ego just goes down because she's not like, oh, like he came here just for me, like I'm the baddest bitch in the club, whatever it is. She's thinking to herself like, okay, this guy's just a really sociable guy. Like obviously he has a lot of confidence to be able to bring my friend into the conversation and make her comfortable, right? So after I do that, I get to know her friends, then I go back to her, obviously ask more questions about her, and then I get the number and get the fuck out, all right? So I call this process qualifying. And the reason why is because everybody knows that whoever's asking questions is the one that's in control of a conversation. I learned this years ago. And the process is actually qualifying because if you think about it, a woman's going to ask you like, oh, where are you from? Who are you here with? What are you doing? What do you do for work? What do you do on the weekends? She's going to be qualifying you to see if you're a high value guy. So if you're a high value man, what you need to do is qualify her instead, even if it's at a bar. You're not going to do it like so out in the open, like, oh, like how much money you make or some shit. You're just going to ask her short shit about herself, like, who are you here with? What are you drinking tonight? What part of the city are you from? Oh, for sure. Like, do you guys usually go to clubs like this, or is this like the first time? That's qualifying because you're asking her questions that are going to get her to engage and tell her about you. Tell you about her. So if you guys want more about like the actual script that I use, which is probably exactly what I was saying right here, is I literally just walk up just like this. Let's rewind. That was me flashing a smile to the camera. So I walk up, I say, what's up? And she says something to me. I nod, right? And then she responds, of course. And then I say, like, how you feeling? So me doing the look around the room was right here. I don't know if you see it. Where the fuck? Right here. That's the look, right? So what you do is you look around the room because you don't want to focus your sole attention on her as if you've been anticipating talking to her the whole night. It's a short little social cue that you do to show that you're a high value man. All right. Now she's gonna reply blah blah blah, and that's when you introduce yourself to her friend. If she says that she's there with a friend, show it again. You introduce yourself to the friend, you bring her into the conversation just to show your confidence. And now what I'm doing here is I'm having a conversation with both of them, right? And what it does is it makes her feel like, okay, I'm dealing with a high value guy, right? Because most men, when they're approaching women, are only going to go up to the woman that they're interested in, right? They're never going to talk to a friend because they don't even have the confidence to pull up on one woman, let alone two or three. So you always bring the friend in, because at the end of the night, when she's making the decision, like, am I going to go home with him? When she has that conversation with her friend, when she says, oh yeah, like King, that guy who we met at the bar, she's like, oh, the guy who was like talking to both of us, oh yeah, you should definitely go home with him, right? Because they've already seen you. Her friend has already seen your confidence. She's already made conversation with you, right? It won't be a weird thing to her where she's like, oh, like, which guy are you talking about? Like, oh, you're going to go home with some random dude? No, they're already familiar with you, all right? So that's why learning the friend group is so important. Now, when you're having conversation with her, it's very important as well to know where she lives, right? Where she is in the city, because this could be something that causes a problem at the end of the night, or it could be something that causes a problem days from then, right? So you have to ask her where she's from, right? I know it's a basic question, but it's a question that must be asked at all times, right? And depending on the way a woman answers this question, you'll know how much she's interested in you, actually, right? So let me give you two different scenarios. There's a woman who you could ask, like, hey, like, where are you from? And she could be like, oh, I'm from like whatever city, she says. And then she's like, what about you? Then you go like, oh, I'm from this city. If a woman is interested, she will say, oh, like, I'm from here. Specifically, she'll tell you. Then she'll go like, where are you from? Then you say it, she'll be like, oh, that's not that far. Anytime a woman says that's not that far is because she's thinking of coming home with you already. So she wants to preface it by saying, oh, that's not that far. So then when the topic of conversation comes up for you guys to go home together, you guys have already made that jump, right? Like, you guys already know that you guys are going to do that. All right? Now, another thing that has to come in is humor. So when it comes to asking questions and it comes to conversation with a woman at a bar, you always have to be funny. But there's no shortcut to it, right? Like, a lot of people think, like, pickup lines are the way to go. I don't think so. I think the best way to be funny is by teasing a woman. So, truthfully, I do not remember what I said in this conversation that is recorded. But all I know is within 15 seconds of talking to them, right? Then 15 seconds, I have them smiling and laughing, right? And the only way I did that is by teasing them, I'm sure, about something, right? Like, it could be teasing her about what she's wearing. It could be teasing her about the way she answers a question. It could be teasing her about where she lives. Could be teasing her about what she's drinking, which I'm probably sure that's what I did that night, right? Teasing her about what she's drinking. It's the easiest tease in the world because whatever drink she has, whether it's tequila, vodka, whatever it is, you can always make a joke about it, all right? So there's no shortcut to being funny. You just have to do it. All right, so once, you've had good conversation with her, I would say 5 minutes is the sweet zone of like, okay, a good conversation has been had. It's time to get the number and get the fuck out. Right, so you can simply just copy this and say it for every single girl that you talk to. Well, that's what's up. I'm finna go back to my friends, but you should get my number. Right, I always tell them to get my number because it is a subtle difference that shows that I'm more valuable than other guys that she deals with. Right, because most people are gonna say, oh, what's your number, or what's your Instagram, what's your Snapchat. If I tell her to get my number, it automatically shows her like, okay, he's not needy, he's not pressed. Because if a woman gets my number, it's on her to text me or not. I do not give a fuck, right? So more times than not, a woman's going to pull out her phone and then second guess herself and be like, wait, no, you should get my number, right? And I'll always tell her, like, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference if I get yours or you get mine? And they'll think to themselves, they'll pause and they'll, like, be like, yeah, you're right. And then they'll get my number and then I'll leave, right? So when you're making the exit, the reason why I say you'd make a graceful exit is because you want to leave a good lasting impression. All right, so after you give her the number, you just want to flash like a short smile, like a sinister smile is what I call it. Be like, all right, I'll see you later, and then you walk away, right? If you literally just copy this, just do it 10 times in a bar, you're going to leave with at least one girl that night, all right? It is super easy. I have left with hundreds of women from a bar easily. I've set up 2-mans, 3-mans just from doing this, all right? Just saying what's up, asking questions, learning the friend group, getting the number. That's all you need, all right?